Welcome to recoverHER, the podcast where your healing journey begins. I'm Heather Novak, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Tracy Oppenheim, a compassionate psychiatrist. Today, we embark on a path of recovery and self-discovery. We are dedicated to inspiring each and every one of you to overcome your struggles and live your best, most fulfilling life. Your recovery starts now, and we're here with you every step of the way.
It's only up from here, 'cause there's no one else that's me.
Well, welcome back to our next episode of recoverHER. Today, I've got a special, lovely guest that I am absolutely in love with. She's in Malibu, where I want to be, where we want to be, right?
Malibu Boo.
Anna, there you are. We see you.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Great to see you both.
Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us.
Who's in the background, though, first off?
Oh, that's my love, Oscar.
Oscar. Oh, hi, Oscar. Hi, Oscar.
Oscar looks really excited. He seems very enthusiastic to be with us today.
Oscar's
You know,
chilling.
he is. He came to the beach meeting with me this
Oh,
morning. We
did
started our
he?
day
There's nothing
at
better than a
the
beach
Zuma
meeting.
Tower 10 beach meeting. I know. It was amazing. So
Where is it?
in Malibu on Zuma Beach, it's called the Tower 10 meeting, and it's at 8:30 in the morning, and that's how I start my day. So usually.
Okay, I'm on my way.
So you'll be coming with me
Yes,
to
I
that.
will.
I know, seriously.
Cannot wait.
Well, I thought maybe a good place to start and just get into things is maybe just choosing a word that describes how we're feeling today. Anna, I'll let you take the lead.
Oh my gosh. I would say free. I'm feeling very free today.
Ooh.
Yeah. Free of the things that used to, up until yesterday even, occupy my mental space.
Ooh.
And today I woke up feeling really free from that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I just went through a little thing. My other little dog, Minty, passed away. And sadly and unexpectedly, and it was horrible. But it was also an opportunity to grieve.
Yeah.
And I think when your grief is that pure, like it's an opportunity to cry those uncried tears that you don't really have to name. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I totally did that. And I feel like something
Cleansed you.
moved totally, but like
Yes.
some kind of block. Like there was a block there that I'd love to have your opinion, both of you, on whether or not how important it is to name that stuff and dissect it and analyze it. So that's my, that was what I would love to talk about. It's
Yes.
how important is it? Because I don't necessarily feel like I labeled it or named it, but it passed through me, and I'm on the other side of it.
And now you feel
I'm
free.
grateful for that. I feel free from that.
It's number one. I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
I had actually.
Thank you. It sucks.
It sucks big time. I actually do a lot of recon on folks that are going to be with us, and so I had done my homework on you and saw on the gram Minty, and I actually had written down in my notes Minty's name to maybe touch on. So I'm very, very sorry.
Oh my God, you guys.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's it's huge,
How long was Minty with you?
About 10 years.
Long time.
And we found him on the street. He was like a little Phoenix street chihuahua that we rescued. And he was just a huge personality, you know. And I think the hardest thing for me, well, it was unexpected too, but the hardest thing about it was telling my daughter, because she and Minty, my daughter Lily, who's 25, and she's very sensitive and very bonded with the pets, and she has been on a surf trip in Bali.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to call her and tell her on her trip. Um, and so I had to make a big parenting judgment call. And, like you were talking about before we started recording, is that I did have to I had to pray about it, and I had to trust God, and I had to listen to that response that I got. That was just wait, wait till she comes home. And I told her yesterday about Minty, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you didn't tell me while I was on my trip."
I know we talked about that on the phone. I'm glad that you did wait.
And I got a lot of I got advice from people like, "You have to tell her. You have to tell her. She's going to be so mad at you if you don't tell her right away." And I didn't. I prayed about it.
Okay.
I was,
And
I
you
have to-
trusted, it was like trusting God. God knows. He knows.
I want to know about the name.
And we know.
We know, of course.
Oh, the name Minty?
Yes.
Oh, it's actually a really cute story because we couldn't agree on a name as a family. The kids were younger, and so we just did a little name that dog contest on Facebook. We're like, hey, we just rescued this little street dog, and he needs a name. And my good friend Chris Ballou, who's the lead singer of the band The Presidents of the United States of America, I'm sure you remember that band. They had Peaches and Lump. He messaged me and said, look, I can tell this is a really special dog, and I'm going to let you have the name of my imaginary dog when I was little. My
No
parents
way.
wouldn't let me have a pet. So I had an imaginary dog named Minty. And so it's like and Chris is one of the most creative, brilliant songwriters and artists that I've ever met. And so I love that it came from his, that innermost place of his subconscious mind,
Yes.
and Minty, his little Minty was actually manifested in the real world. And so
Awesome.
and so I love that. And I told the kids, I was like, the kids are gonna, they didn't like all the names I came up with. And so I'm like, hey, you guys, what do you think of the name Minty? And they were like, Minty!
Perfect.
We love it! And so it worked out well. So
And jumping back,
That was good.
you said you were wondering about, how important is it to name it, to analyze it. I love the idea of naming feelings. I think that's very, very powerful. I think it's less important to analyze the feelings, right? Versus exactly what you're describing, which is you allowed yourself space and time to feel. So often
Right.
what happens is we want to get into the story about why we're feeling a certain way, or we want to analyze, or we want to judge the feelings. And that's really
Right.
a way of creating distance from the experience of just
Oh,
being with the feeling.
That's a great
So
point.
that is so interesting. Why? What? Because your ego gets in there, or what happens? I
And
don't
the analyzing part that takes over.
like if someone, yeah.
I think it's
If you're grieving and it's coming through you,
yes.
because I've heard that, you don't want to interrupt somebody's grieving process. So do you think that analyzing it interrupts the flow of the grief or the fear or the joy or whatever that feeling is?
I do. I
It
think
gets cerebral.
exactly what I was just going to say, Anna. Exactly. Like so often we're more comfortable being shoulders up, right? And in the mind
Right.
versus being in the body or the heart, feeling our feelings. And because honestly, we're afraid to get overwhelmed, or sometimes it is overwhelming, and we might need to take
It's too much.
Yeah, we might need to take a space away, from the overwhelm, and then kind of come back to it when we're ready. But
Yeah.
it reminds me, I had an interesting experience just the other day where I think so often if we're feeling angry, if we're feeling sad, if we're feeling anxious, we can name the feelings, but so often we want to jump into the stories.
But the why.
The
why
why.
are we feeling that?
So maybe I was feeling a little bit
Right.
sad, for example, and my temptation would maybe want to be to call Heather or, a friend and say, I'm sad, and then go into the story of why I'm sad versus just
Being
naming,
Right.
sad.
being sad, naming the feeling and allowing myself to,
Right.
be with
To just
someone.
be sad
And
for a
I
little
think that
bit.
when you
Right.
allow yourself to feel the full range of emotion, so pick one, right? So you allow yourself to feel sad. You allow yourself to lean into that grief, that there's so much richness and there's so much more what you just described as freedom on the other
The
side of that,
opening.
when you simply allow
Right.
yourself the permission to have the feeling, and not so much the analytical mind of as to why,
Yeah.
or is it
Right.
lasting too long, or why am I still doing this? Because I mean, those feelings and repetition is a part of it all.
Oh yeah. Totally. And I get to that place where it's like, I should be so much better by now.
I
Like I've been sober
know.
for a long
Judging.
time,
No.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe. And then I'm like, oh,
Oh, thank God
I
you
can't
can.
believe I'm still carrying all this anger for so and so or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I do get into that place, especially when someone's like, I've been thinking about this whole like, the whole concept of forgiveness and how it is kind of, you know, it is kind of a construct, and it's part of a construct that isn't necessarily 100% healthy, that we have the power to forgive other people. We have the power to do what we want and what we choose to do with our feelings. But it's not up to us to let anybody off the hook. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Um,
I have a little challenge I would encourage us to all,
Okay.
all practice. And this came from actually a recent interaction that Heather and I had, and she might not even recall it, but we were talking the other day, and she was having feelings, right? Feeling
Feelings.
two thumbs up. There was frustration, there was anger, there was some worry. And so often when we communicate with people, there can be a mismatch of what that person is needing in that moment and what we're, as someone that, that loves that person, what we're trying to match, to that person's experience.
Okay.
And so as to create closeness and intimacy and to allow that to help that person move through their feelings, you really have to get clear about what they're needing in the moment. So she was sharing,
right.
I went into analytic mode, right? And immediately
Right.
perceived, there was a contraction, a shutting down in her. And it was, I don't really need anyone to tell me what to do, right? What she was
Right.
needing was someone to be with her in those feelings. That's all. And so I think
Right.
you brought up analyzing feelings. I think next time a friend or partner comes to you with a particular set of feelings and they're wanting
Right.
to engage in the story around the feelings, meaning this happened
I
or that
know.
happened or this happened,
Right.
just ask for their permission. Say, hey, is it okay before we get into the hows and the whys? Would you feel comfortable if we could just be together in these feelings? I
Yeah.
really want to just be here with you
Right.
for a
Because they're not
minute.
necessarily asking you to solve their problem or take you out of their state, but just kind of be there for them while they feel.
And watch what happens
We're so
during
uncomfortable
the
in
experience
that
of
though sometimes.
co-regulating
Yeah.
with someone. Watch how much they
Oh.
slow down and they're able to sink into it. You're able to be there with them. And then it's that expansion that happens on the other side.
Totally.
No.
And sometimes
I
when
know
it's
that's so
just
great. And with parenting too. Do you know what I mean? Like
parenting,
if your
yeah.
kid comes to you and they're like,
Oy.
ah,
Oy.
and you try and sit them and tell them, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, or let's break this down, or no, your teacher doesn't hate you, or like whatever.
Yeah.
Like they don't necessarily need that. Sometimes they just need, yeah, I hear you. Man, I felt that way before too. Or just sit there with them.
Yeah.
And
Just
be
sit
curious.
there.
Be curious
It's
about
so
the
hard to
feeling.
not try and rescue somebody from their suffering.
Well, I think about it. I have so much healing inside of recovery meetings, but I have so much healing inside of the yoga rooms. So much healing, and I'm one-on-one with myself. And I'll leave my mat and look around at others because so many people are drawn to that practice to heal, right? They keep coming back every single day or a couple times a week
Yeah.
or a couple times a year just for growth, shedding more of
Right.
those layers. And
Yeah.
I'll cry on my mat in child's pose, be weeping or wailing, healing, suffering, sadness, grief, fear, all of the things. And sometimes someone will come and gently just touch my back, push me down a little bit deeper into child's pose. And, it allows me then to enter more of my body, less of my brain, and just to feel and let go.
Yeah.
And then I had an interaction too this week where someone next to me was experiencing some emotions. And she came over after class and sat next to me on the floor and was still crying. And I thought how I used to say, "Oh, you don't need to cry. It's okay. You don't need to." And now I say all the time, Anna, I say, please just keep feeling, keep crying, keep
Yeah.
feeling these feelings. And I'll sit here with you so you're not alone. But if you're in that space sitting alone or not, you're not alone because you've got your baby sitting there on your couch. But, the feeling wells up and you feel grief for the experiences that you've just gone through. I can also, I can let that grief sit next to me too. And I just invite it to be a part of my experience. Just the feeling, not the whys. So I think
Right.
what you brought up from
Yeah,
the
no, I
beginning is
cry in
brilliant.
yoga too, but it's I cry in yoga every time. But it's because I can't touch my toes and I don't like what my reflection looks like.
I'm in
But
pain.
other than
Right. Like, wait a minute. Well, I miss
no,
you in my hot yoga classes, by the way.
yeah, I was the one crying for all the pain related reasons. No,
But I have done
but yeah,
that.
no, it's so true. And then I think letting somebody know. I have a friend here who lost her son last year in a motorcycle accident, and it's overwhelming for me sometimes to be around her. But what I was able to tell her, because I didn't know what to say or how to say, but I was able to tell her, I just want to let you know that your grief doesn't make me uncomfortable. Like you can come to me with your grief, and I'm not going to try and make it about me or interfere with your process.
It is
And I just want to
welcome
let
to
you know
sit
that
here.
it's total Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stuff. She was, her work on grief is just, it changed how we perceive it and how we do it, and we have to give people the respect of their own experience, rather than
Absolutely. And the more
you
you
know.
more you allow yourself to feel that grief, I think you're
Yeah.
sitting here on the other end of it feeling a little bit more free because you simply allowed yourself to feel those feelings.
Anna,
Yeah, totally. Uncried tears.
how did you what's your journey like with your feelings in terms of being able to be so comfortable with big feelings?
Oh, I have learned the uncomfortable way that feelings come and feelings go, and when you lean into, okay, I have to just a very, very quick thing. I had a writing mentor when I was like 17, like way before I even thought about getting sober. And I had my first broken heart. And this guy, Jesse Bernstein, super important beat poet in Seattle music world, incredible person. And I had my first huge broken heart. And I called him at midnight and I couldn't even talk. And I was like, and I told him what happened. And he said, lean into it.
Mm.
It will
Oh,
make
yeah.
you a better
Lean
writer. It will make
into
you a better
it.
person. It will make you
So
a
good.
better friend. It will make you a better artist. And um, and I have carried that with me. And when I was out there
Oh,
using and drinking, I was leaning into it, but I had drugs and alcohol to help me, and I thought I was so brave, and it's like, yeah, like, I was this tough girl who could like do anything, and but I wasn't feeling anything. I thought I was being that way. And then when I had to put down the drugs and alcohol, it's like all those feelings were there, and I had to actually truly learn how to lean into them and walk through them. And I mean, I don't even want to say the word I, because I didn't do it by myself. It was a total buddy system, recovery, people guiding me watching other people talk about how they are surviving their feelings. And it's like this. There's a guy out here who says, like, sometimes it's the mosquitoes, not the alligators, that get you. It's like
That's good.
the
That is
right. So like
good.
the big feelings were like not the ones that were the hardest. It was the little stuff,
Yeah.
that were just, but like sometimes it really sucks. And like what we were talking about earlier, sometimes the feelings, they feel like too much and they feel insurmountable. And I feel like it's not fair. Like, why I don't want to remember this stuff. I don't want to feel this stuff, but I do. And it's okay. And you feel it. And they say, like, the average feeling, like when you are, if you actually like let yourself go there, it lasts about 8 minutes. I don't know if you have any
Insight on
theories
that?
around that, but if you actually let yourself cry or let yourself scream into a pillow or whatever you need to do, it's over in about 10
Right.
minutes.
I think I'm due for a
It's like
good
we'll spend
cry. I think I'm
yeah.
due for a good scream session or a rage room. Something.
Yeah.
Feel it percolating.
Was
Yeah.
there
I can't control it though, but yeah.
was there a particular feeling that was the most challenging for you to learn to be with?
I hate to say it, and I have so much shame around it, but it was definitely anger. And
Yeah,
it
mine
wasn't
too.
until
Same.
I was way into recovery because that is like the least sexy character defect. It's the one thing that, like, I'll be anything, but I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be the
That's
angry
interesting
person.
you say that.
You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. It was so hard for me. And I was projecting my anger onto my children. And they were calling me out on it. And they were like, one time my daughter left her coat. We were in Seattle, and I was dropping her off somewhere, and she needed her coat. Like, I can't believe you forgot your coat. I go, what's wrong with you? And she stopped and she was like, there's nothing wrong with me. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like little stuff like that. And then, just being irritable. And, I got sober. One of the reasons I got sober was so I wouldn't hurt people anymore. And I was hurting my children because I wasn't willing to look at my anger. And I went online and I Googled Seattle anger management. And the first number that came up, I called.
Oh, you're so
And
good.
I talked to this guy.
That's amazing.
And I know. And he goes, I told him a little bit about my situation. And he was like, listen, I deal with professional football players who are court ordered to deal with their anger because they've thrown their girlfriends down the stairs. He goes, I don't think this is for you. And I go, no, that's what I'm feeling.
But I want to. I'm just
not
yelling
doing
at
that,
Lily.
But it's like the Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
I know.
That's, that's my level of anger. And I started doing some like EMDR and some therapy work with him around it. And like we were talking about earlier, though, like it wasn't necessarily about going back and what are you angry about, having
That's
to walk
right.
through it all and talk it all out. It was just
allowing yourself to
looking
feel
at
the
it and
anger.
but also shining a light on it. Like
Yes.
the shame was gone because I was like finally admitting, like we did with being an alcoholic, like shame thrives in the dark. And so just saying to myself, like, I have an anger management problem. Ugh, God, it makes me like sick to even say it now, but I still do, and I always will. But like to be able to say that and ask for help
Yeah.
with that was huge for me. It was so humbling, and it really lifted a lot of the shame around it, and it started the healing process, like you were talking about. You have to kind of, you have to do something to start the process,
And I think that's,
I think you'd have, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
I really thank you so much for sharing that. I that really resonates. I think that we label certain feelings as desirable or good, other feelings as bad, and we need
Especially as women.
hell yes, and we need practice experiencing all of those feelings. I know anger is a very hard emotion for me to feel. I feel very, very distant from it. I don't feel afraid of it. Like intellectually, I don't feel afraid of it, but it takes a long time to percolate. And what I understand for some people, myself included, is that unconsciously I associate anger with a disruption in connection. And I really hold love and connection in such high regard.
Reverence.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a very important value for me. And so because of needing to unlearn that anger, someone being angry or myself being angry doesn't put doesn't put the relationship at risk, or is not going to necessarily
Right.
lead to disconnection as long as you're able to move
Right.
through it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right. And being able to express that. Yeah. In my family too, like if you expressed any like anger or anything like that, somebody would leave, there would be instant like attack,
Right.
abandonment,
yes,
insults, physical abuse, mental abuse. Like even if you said, I mean, like I just had to be on perfect behavior all the time, and I had to be the one that kept everybody happy all the time, all the time, all the time, and it was the worst thing you could be in my life. God, you're so angry. You're so angry. What's wrong with you? And so it's like, now it's like, I actually said the other day, like, my mom made some comment of like, God, I was having, I was having a rough morning. God, you don't have to be so angry. I go, you know what? Sometimes I'm angry.
That's
you know?
right.
Like, I've never said that. It's always been like justifying, you know? So it's,
and anger is our friend.
Takes a lot of years, but.
Anger can be our friend, right? And that Heather, you always talk about how it can lead into power, right? It can lead to
I find
to
it very
movement.
powerful. Yep. It moves energy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Right.
I didn't think anger
We
is
are
such a
afraid of
huge
it.
topic. I didn't think that I presented myself as a very angry person at all. I was
You
happy or stoic, one or the other, right? And anger just wasn't, like you said, even an option that I could choose from. It just wasn't a part of who I was able. It was not a feeling that I was able to express in any way, ever.
Right.
So when in some work inside of, it was MDMA actually, that in a one-on-one session with a therapist, and that's like the love drug, right? I raged. I absolutely
Really?
fucking raged. I lost my mind.
Wow.
And I was
Wow.
introduced.
Hello.
I was introduced front row seat to my anger. And I had no idea, Anna, that I was angry.
Yeah.
And I had.
Well, that makes me never want to do that kind of therapy, because I would probably have that same
Yeah,
experience.
it
That's
was
good to know. I'm learning.
It was
I'm
something.
learning from you.
It was
That's so
something
good. Yeah.
because I had no idea that I was angry, and a lot of it was justifiable, But to live with all of that and to carry it, but I didn't even know I had it. So again, it's kind of like what you're talking about. It's just the awareness to even simply allow yourself to feel it. So now I know my anger. I'm really grateful for it.
Yes.
Oh my God. I find like it makes me not only feel alive, I don't weaponize it. I definitely don't try to. You know, I'm not perfect. I can make mistakes, but I find it to be such an essential part of who I am now because I didn't even know, I didn't have access to it before, Anna, at all.
Yeah.
And so now when I am angry and I can think about things that I am justifiably angry about as a woman living right now, there are lots of things that I can that engender anger within me. I actually had an older white man tell me it was an episode, it was a moment, it was not a fight, but a conversation, and it escalated. And
Situation.
that person told me that I was, your anxiety is so out of control. And I said, this isn't anxiety. This is my anger. This is my anger.
Yeah.
So I've owned a lot of that and been able to just sort of
Yeah.
sit with that feeling, not so much analyzing as to why, because it can be
Yeah.
justifiable or it's something you must let go of. And I want to be, the healthiest version of myself that I possibly can be within my
Oh, yeah.
layers of sobriety. And, as just a woman walking through my life now in my 50s, the second half, I don't want to live as an angry person. I want to be activated to be able to move through that because just like with your grief,
Right.
you found so much freedom on the other side of that. When I allow myself to feel the anger, Anna, there is so much freedom on the other side of that.
I
Yeah.
also,
I know it's when it comes out sideways is when it gets hurtful. So the fact that your awareness of it actually makes you less angry, don't you think?
It's a new exploration of space and inside the feeling for me, for sure.
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
when we're able to move through all the feelings and not repress them, right, then you're less likely to have
Right.
those big pop-offs. I do want to jump back
Right.
in terms of when Heather was talking about her experience in MDMA, which is used for lots of mental health conditions. Specifically, the focus has been around post-traumatic stress disorder, and unfortunately, the FDA didn't in August didn't approve it, but it will be
Oh.
here
Eventually.
soon. Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. But the reason why Heather was able to experience her anger like that, it wasn't a bad thing at all. It was that
Right.
the reason.
I know. My reaction to it was very
No.
knee-jerk. I realized
No,
that.
no. But I think what's important to realize is that the reason why MDMA is called the love drug is because one of the things it does is it reduces the activity in your amygdala, so you can feel a sense of safety. So you feel a higher level of safety,
Oh.
which then allows you to go deeper into things that maybe normally you would push away. So,
Yeah.
if you, for example, if you have post-traumatic stress disorder and there have been limits in terms of what you've been able to process around that trauma, you have an increased level of safety and you're able to dive deeper into that re-experiencing and healing. And so it's not uncommon. You're going to get lots of different emotions that come up during
Sure.
MDMA assisted therapy, but it doesn't surprise me that, here you are in this safe container, feeling safe in your body,
Right.
feeling so much
I
compassion
didn't
for
think
yourself.
about that. Safety.
Yeah, feeling so much more compassion for yourself and for other people. And so then you're like, fucking angry.
Fucking angry.
Right.
I know, because don't you believe about, the idea that the place of the wound is also the place of the healing?
Yeah, absolutely.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, that's why community is so important, and spiritual community and recovery community is because we can't go to those places alone. We have to keep, don't you agree with that? Like, I think that's one of the mistakes that people do. Like,
Yes.
that was so hard for me because I'm such kind of an introverted person, and I do tend to
Mm-hmm.
isolate and things like that. And so for me, like, community is everything
Mm-hmm.
because in order to do what we do, we need
Heal.
others, we
To
need
witness
guides,
that.
and we need,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
as you were saying that, Anna, I literally got chills
Mm-hmm.
in my body, because that is such a truth that you just spoke.
Yeah.
And so often well, just in the world in general today, but so often with internalizing things like depression or anxiety
Hmm.
or shame, we do the exact opposite of what our system needs. So
Right.
community is 100% a requisite for healing. And,
Yep.
there are studies, big longitudinal studies that demonstrate that one of the biggest predictors of happiness in later life is your relationships, how you are in community.
Absolutely.
So how did you navigate?
That's the greatest gift of recovery for me. Like, I
Mm.
didn't really, I mean, I would always have like a boyfriend and a couple of, like,
Right.
you know, people I, hung out with and stuff like that. But I never had community. Never. And
Mm-hmm.
now I have recovery community. I have like another, like, spiritual community that's kind of spiritual. It's like a philosophy retreat that I go to in Northern Ireland. And we go, and it's like we collectively like walk through some dark stuff, and our
I
shadow
know. We
selves
gotta
all,
meet up with
kind of
you. Not
out.
only in Ireland, but
I
at
know.
Ojai. We gotta do
I
a little
know.
Ojai girls trip, Optimum Health
I
Institute.
know.
Yeah.
But like the fact that I'm even talking about that is, normally I would just be like, oh God, like I was
Yeah.
so cynical and
Oh,
so
it's so
shut down, and I
exciting.
didn't realize, like, it's so cheesy and so 70s, but people need people, and God works
Yeah,
through people,
absolutely.
and we need to remind each other,
Can, can I can
God
I
works
that,
through people.
yes.
Yes, she does.
can I ask you, Anna? You identified yourself as an introvert, and that there were some challenges in stepping into community. Was it the recovery path that helped you into that, or how did you navigate that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I went in completely blind. It was literally like a leap of faith. Like, I just, because I quit using and drinking to support my boyfriend at the time. And I was in denial about my own
Oh,
alcoholism
okay.
and drug addiction. And so,
So
they say, like,
through
if
the
drugs
back
and
door.
alcohol don't kick your ass, yeah. Well, if drugs and alcohol don't kick your ass, sobriety will. They say,
Yeah.
and it was like I was sober, but I didn't have drugs and alcohol anymore.
Oh,
And so it got really bad really fast, because everything I'd been running from was just all of a sudden in my face. Um, and and I was just miserable. And I wound up, my boyfriend at the time was like, you either need to start drinking or start going to meetings.
those are
And
your
I
choices.
was like, whatever, fine, I'll go to a meeting, but whatever. And I did wind up going to a meeting, and um, as soon as I identified as an alcoholic, like, I literally felt the weight of the world like fall off my shoulders. And it's like I was one of those people. Like, it's such a like cheesy AA story, but like I've been sober ever since that moment, and that was 30 years ago.
Oh, that's
Wow.
amazing. I'm
And
so
So
I
grateful for
good.
you.
literally like, and I started going to
Mm.
meetings, and all of a sudden I'm like, I love everybody in this room. Like, it scared me.
You
I was
felt the
so not
love.
unicorny, and yeah. I started writing music. I was writing folk songs. You guys don't
Yes.
understand. Like, I was like the most cynical little shut down little ice queen, sarcastic, judgmental little bitch. And then
It's
all of
so
a sudden
good.
I was like,
Judgmental little
sobriety.
bitch.
I really was.
Oh.
And I still can be that way. But no, it was literally like, somebody just turned the light on for me. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is great. And I'm not
This
gonna,
is great.
it's been great. And even today at the beach, it's like,
California beach
the
meetings are the best. That's where
oh
you
my God.
can
Yeah.
find
Oh
God
my
just
God.
right at the shore,
Totally.
rushing through our
Here's this guy
veins.
and this guy talking about how pain and joy exist in the same place.
Absolutely.
And he was, talking about good orderly direction. If you
Yeah.
can't conceptualize a human God, which I don't necessarily have one. And it's like, and then, at first I was like, good orderly direction. Orderly sounds so boring and like
Good
organized, but it's
orderly
not,
direction. Yeah.
yeah, but they talk about, the answers will come
Right.
when your house is in order.
Mm-hmm.
And order, that's putting your house in
Yeah.
order
It's a big
spiritually,
task.
getting rid of all the clutter and clearing a
Yeah.
space for something that's going to come in. And that process that we have to continually
Right.
do, continually unraveling the sweater and re-knitting a new sweater, and just that process. It's like, it's so beautiful, but it cannot exist without community for me. I'm sure there are, monks sitting on top of a mountaintop who, are in a state of eternal bliss, but I need people.
Yeah, I think so often we reject to protect, right? So we're either rejecting ourselves or we're
Mm,
rejecting
mm,
other people.
so good.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
was
to protect what?
it,
Our fragile,
Egos.
what we're attached to, our story. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heather speaks so highly of your creativity, and I was curious.
Oh.
I was curious about your relationship with your creativity and art,
Ooh, I love
and
that question.
and what role that has played in your
Yeah.
journey and your healing.
Oh my God. God, that's such a great question. I think it's another way that community exists, just having other artists in my life, but actually trusting the creative process and trusting that that creative process is higher powered. I think a lot of the times I used to think it kind of came from an egocentric place, like I want to be an artist. I want my art to be taken seriously, um, you know, and now it's like very different. Like I can pray about it. I can pray for inspiration, and however that comes out, um, feels good to me. There's that cheesy thing about, like the talents and gifts are God's gift to us, and what we do with them is our gift back to God. And I used to feel like I needed to do something more important with my art, like get my master's and have some big important job in the art world. But now it's like, if I can just help people create beautiful spaces in which they're more comfortable, and bring joy and have conversation pieces. And I love rescuing art from the thrift store and adding stuff to it and
Yeah, you're
making it
so
cool
good
and
at
framing it and
curating.
putting it in a different space. Yeah, that's where the joy is for me, and I love it. And what I've learned though, that's really important though, is for creative people, when we're not creative, it's not a good thing. Like creative people need to create. We have to do that. That's my lifeblood. That's my golden thread that like connects me, and I need to pay attention to that, and trust that feeling.
When you're not creating, do you use that as like a barometer for knowing that something's off in your world?
Oh yeah, totally. Like even if I'm like cooking and it's kind of blah, I'm like, oh my God, I just cooked without love and without
Yeah.
creativity. Like
No,
I'm shut
it's
up. Do you know what
very
I mean?
intentional.
Oh
You're
yeah.
very
Yeah.
intentional.
I just try to do everything. And I mean, like, I'm sure right now, like the image of me, like being in a studio and creating like big giant works of art is coming to mind, but that is not the reality of my life. Like, usually it's like, oh, here, I found this cool little thing at a thrift store and I put it in a new frame and I'm giving it to you
Ugh.
because I thought you would like
I
it. And
know,
someone
it's
going
the
like, oh my
best.
God, never bought art for myself. This is so great. I'm going to put it up in my house.
Yes.
Like that's what it's about for me too. Or like, cooking a meal for somebody, or, I'm
Mm,
letting go of my ego attachment to the creative process.
yeah,
Um,
I hear you.
but yeah.
I heard three things
Mm-hmm.
that I want to follow up on. Number one, you're clearly gifted in the creative space. And, at some point in
Thank
your
you.
life, there was this idea that you had to be more humble about that, or that it would seem
Mm,
like, you were bragging or
Self
coming. Yeah.
promotion.
And
right.
I noticed that so often.
Mhm.
Why the fuck do we all do that
Yeah, not
to
like
ourselves
play small.
with our gifts?
Well, I think people do it though. They'll say, like,
Yeah.
it's happened. Like I'll be like, look at this cool thing, and they'll be like, oh, whoa, big deal. Oh, aren't you fan? And it's like my thing is like, why do I allow those people in my life? I don't do that anymore. Like, so yeah,
Absolutely.
get rid of those people. But anyway, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
interrupted
no,
you.
no, I that's so important because there are people
Yeah, the
that
outside noise.
that feel more comfortable when we're
Hmm.
contained
that's so
or
true.
constrained.
Or
Yeah,
they see you in a certain role and just don't want that dynamic changed at all. Like, who do you think you are?
exactly.
I grew up with that.
Right.
My mom, who had me when she
Hmm.
was
Oh,
17, right? She was so
yeah.
young, and she always said, that's what I hear most often when I think
Mm.
back in Amy's voice, that she would say, "Who do you think you are?"
Mm.
Oh, whoa, Heather. Yeah.
All
Wow.
the time. And but here's the deal. I would do everything above and beyond, almost just in spite of, so that's
Yeah.
a little much
Yeah.
too.
The second thing I heard is right before you drop like a truth bomb,
Mm.
you say it's cheesy, or you diminish
Ah,
it, and what you're offering is just like
Ugh,
gold.
magic.
So thank you
oh,
for everything
that's cool.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for
That's
everything
really nice.
you're
I do that. I'll do that.
sharing.
I'll be like, oh, my little art business, or
Nope.
yeah, I do that. But thank you for, wow.
Eh,
Thank you for seeing that.
Mhm.
And I've been really resonating on this idea too, is that sometimes we think something has to be so big to be important or magical, but I'm starting to recognize that it's
Mm.
like the smallest
Yeah.
things that can make tremendous impact
Hmm.
in terms of our healing or our connection to other people or just our satisfaction in life. And it
Totally.
sounds like you've experienced that in the creative space as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'm so
I mean, I think
grateful that
Heather and I think we have that connection too. It's like it's important for you. I definitely think we have a visual thread that connects us in terms of
yes,
aesthetic for sure.
definitely.
And I love that. Like walking into someone's house and being
Ah,
like, I want to be friends with this person.
yeah.
Yes.
Tracy always
I
says
one
that
time
when we took this course at Berkeley. Was it last summer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was at someone's house, and we walk. So
mm,
this is how I am in anyone's space. If it's your home, there's some reverence just simply by entering that threshold, according to you, right? I give it
right.
that highest amount of love that I possibly can. I'm not going to judge. So, but when I walk into a space, I need to meet the house first
So true.
before I even interact with people. So we walked into
Well,
this
you can
beautiful.
tell a lot. Yeah.
Oh, we
It's
walked into this really incredible space in this home in Berkeley. And, off you went
Yes.
saying, greeting everyone. There were
mm,
colleagues there and other medical doctors and therapists, but I just had to meet the house. I had to look at the space, look at the aesthetic, and I fell in love with
yeah.
this home, the walls and the
Yeah.
books and the art.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can have the opposite reaction too, like
Definitely.
walk into a space and be like,
Yeah, that happened
yeah.
to me yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's why I'm so glad that you're involved with my home right now. It feels so good
Oh,
that you're over there. I
that I
love it.
love. My favorite framed piece that you have. Well, there's so many, but one of them says, "Chocolate isn't the problem. You're the problem."
I framed a chocolate bar. Yeah.
So good. I didn't. I
break
was. I
break the
didn't break the
glass,
glass
get the
to.
chocolate. No, no, no.
Mhm.
I know. In case of emergency, break glass. Eat chocolate.
In case of emergency. Yeah, I think I met you originally through a mutual friend, Jill. Right?
Yeah.
Through Jill
Well, I
Thomas.
think no, we knew each other, but but then we realized that Jill was
Okay,
our
a mutual
connecting
friend. So it was Recovery
person. Yeah,
Circles
and Jill and I've
first.
known. Jill gave me my first job in sobriety. I was the photographer at Mackey's
Oh, at
Parlor at her
Mackey's
little pet
Parlor in the
boutique.
Hilton Village.
Hmm.
I loved that
Yep.
shop. Oh my God, I miss that store. But you guys
Yeah,
also do
she's
a bunch of
amazing.
work. You're
Yeah, we do. Well, yeah.
in
I mean,
Ghana.
she does a lot. No, no, no. I have a no. She introduced me to the service work that's available in the refugee community
Yes.
in Arizona,
Yeah.
and I met a family from Rwanda,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very close, and they're a beautiful
Hmm.
part of my life. But yeah, no, she's a good
Yeah,
one.
you
That
touch a
Jill.
lot of people. You touch a lot of people, Miss Anna,
Oh,
with
well,
with your love and your reach and your creativity and your
thank you.
spirit.
You do too.
Hmm.
And and I put myself in positions where other people affect me in that way. I've gotten
Right.
more from the Rwandan family that I met. I've gotten more than I've ever given to them. I heard this most beautiful thing. Do you know who Meister Eckhart is?
No.
He was he's a phenomenal Catholic mystic, and he started doing the first sermons in not in Latin. He's German, and he has these beautiful meditations that you can listen to, and these old prayers. And one of them is, he one of the things he repeats is, God is so much more ready to give than we are ready to receive. And I love that so
Oof.
much because I love to think about the fact that there's all this stuff
Uh,
there,
yeah.
and working with people, working with others, doing all that stuff, it just opens the channels
Yeah, it
so that we
does.
can receive all that stuff that's already there, and it's grace. You
Yeah.
don't have to work for it, you don't have to earn it. It's there, it's waiting, it wants to come to you, it wants to come through you. But we have to just
Hmm.
allow that, and get our egos out of the way. And I think one of the best ways to do that is working with others. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's when, yeah.
I was just going to say it's so interesting to me that you just used the word, that quote, beautiful quote, which I hadn't heard
Mm.
before, about receiving,
Mm-hmm.
because as you were talking, in addition to listening, I was wondering what your practice of receiving was, and if you're
Mm.
comfortable in receiving, because it really sometimes
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
doesn't come naturally, so it is a practice to learn to receive as much as we give.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, in AA literature, they talk about how, your connection to God and your spiritual practice and your divine connection, whatever that is, gradually becomes a working part of the mind.
Mm,
And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, there's no way, because I had to make such an effort to take a break in my day, to stop and be like, okay, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to pray, and I'm going to, spend 5 minutes connecting. And it's true though, like the longer you stay sober, or the longer you work on whatever whether or
Mm-hmm.
not you're sober, whether or not it doesn't matter, but uh, um, continuing to evolve your spiritual program, or your philosophical world, or your service world, like it does gradually become a working part of the mind. Now it's like I have, you know instead of having, like, it's like calm seas with occasional storms. It used to be always a storm with
Yeah.
occasional patches of calm. you know
What would
and
you, Anna, what would you tell your younger self that you know now?
mm. good question.
That's funny. So on one of the retreats that I went to in Ireland with this philosopher, Peter Rollins, and it's called Spark. It's so cool. And that was one of our questions that we did with this visual artist. And he was like, okay, you're going to do something that can be seen from outer space. And it's your message that you're going to leave on the planet.
Ooh.
And right. And mine was lighten up.
Lighten up.
You know, and lighten up, like I actually had a little neon sign made with it, you know, because
that's
like
cool.
I took everything so seriously.
Yes.
I took everything personally. I still do sometimes. It's a,
Work in progress.
But
We
like-
all are.
totally. But I would drift towards the negative, drift towards the heavy, and lightening up and letting go, and doing, it's like sometimes we do. Obviously, we have to lean into it. We have to walk through that heavy stuff, but then being aware that that is a process of letting go.
Yeah.
When you're leaning into it, you're not gonna go be marinating and all that stuff. You're going through it so that you can look through your baggage in your suitcase and stuff, so you can let it go and
Yeah.
leave it behind
That's
and walk
good.
through
That
lighter.
is good. We like
I had
to
an art
Lighten
teacher
up.
in high
Yeah.
school. Oh,
lighten up.
yeah, and just taking ourselves lightly,
Yeah.
and that's why with my friendships and my relationships and all that, like, oh my God, do I need people in my life who
To remind you
laugh
of
and
that.
keep-
Joy.
Mhm.
and to remind me to not take myself too seriously.
That's right. None of us are getting out of here alive.
We
right?
like to wrap up
No.
our episodes with 3 takeaways. And that, that you've shared. And I've heard so much good stuff. Thank you for all of it, because you teach
Oh
me.
my God.
You
Absolutely.
teach me an awful lot. I can't wait to come out and visit you.
So
3
definitely,
takeaways.
so definitely number one is lighten up.
Yep. Number 1. What would be number 2 for you? A takeaway from today?
Oh, you're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think for me personally, what I need to remember is the concept of grace, the concept that all of the love and
Yeah.
everything that we get from God is there. We don't have to work for it.
Ah.
We don't have to earn it. We don't
Yeah,
have to
we
prove
don't have to earn
ourselves.
it.
It's
We don't have to
good.
prove
there,
ourselves.
and all we need to do is, dismantle the wall, or
Yeah,
and then also community.
definitely.
Your friends are your future, and
You're our community.
you're my community.
You are. I mean, when something goes wrong,
And like I look at
We
you guys,
call
I look at
you.
you both, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe like I know these 2 women. Like I'm so proud to know you. Brilliant, amazing, beautiful women that are interested in like doing this work and
Thank you,
helping
thank you,
people
thank you.
heal. Like this is so huge.
it's cool, right?
It's so
Amazing.
major. How many people walk around in pain and discomfort because they
Yeah.
feel like that's just their story?
And we don't have to live that way. You don't
and-
have to be alone.
Oh,
Nope.
no.
Write that new story.
Well,
Thank
I love you, Miss
you.
Anna.
Love you too.
Love
and
you
yeah,
so
get out
much.
here so we can go do some ocean
Yep.
swimming.
We're going to do that. We're going to go to an ocean meeting.
Clothing optional.
Mhm. We're going to go vintage market, art
yes.
hunting.
Oh yeah.
All the
yeah.
things.
Cooking.
Absolutely.
Cooking, curating.
Cooking.
The
Mhm.
best.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'll collab,
All right. Well,
do
thank you so much.
anything with
It's
you.
such an honor to know you both and to be involved in this
Thank
very,
you.
very cool project.
We'll talk to you soon. I'm
Thank
sure I'll
you.
talk to you later today.
Love you guys.
Love you
Love you
too.
too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm unbreakable, unstoppable.